Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Naika.
Okay, you're all welcome to Bincom Dev Center's ICT Career Talk for the month of July. And our theme for this event is the highway to expertise in tech. And we have two speakers who are going to be speaking to us in this event. The first speaker, she's going to be taking a question and answer session. So if you have any questions about tech that you'd like to ask, Dr. Brenda is here to answer. She graduated from Queen Mary, University of London, received a doctorate in computer science from the University of Birmingham. She's an academic researcher, cares about quality and equitable access to healthcare. She has always had interest in design and tech. She once wanted to be an architect, but now she's in information security. Our first speaker for today's event works as a cybersecurity and risk specialist. She provides support, incident response, and security guidance for organizations. And on the side, she's learning photography and interior design. So everyone, join me. Let's welcome Dr. Brenda Ojamiraye. Thank you for joining us for today's session.
Thank you, Naika. I think you've given a really good summary to what I do. So my name is Bendra, everyone, and I work as a cybersecurity analyst. That's my day job. And then I'm not doing my day job. I'm actually doing other day job, which is in research. I'm a researcher and I do work with researchers at the University of Birmingham. So that's a summary of what I do.
Okay, thank you, Ma, for joining us today. I have a few questions I'll be asking you in the field of tech, and anyone can join in the question and answer the questions session. So if you have any question you'd like to ask, feel free to do so, or you can drop them in the chat section. I would read them out. So, Ma, my first question is, can you give a brief overview of what an IT specialist entails?
Okay, so I'm a cybersecurity specialist, and I guess when you use the word analyst, it tends to be a catch-all phrase for a lot of things. Cybersecurity is very broad, and what I do currently as a in cybersecurity is I focus on monitoring and protecting networks. So a lot of that is looking at for compromises, incidents, making plans, putting in different protections just to make sure the network is safe. I think that's to make it at a very basic level. A big part of my work is known as vulnerability management, and that's just identifying vulnerabilities, which is just a really technical name for weaknesses. So identifying vulnerabilities within our network. And it's not just the technical side of things. So for any organization, you've got the people, the technology, and the processes. And what we do, or what I do, is to actually identify the different weaknesses in any of those things and to make sure we're protected against them. For vulnerabilities which we cannot be protected, which we cannot fix, those things eventually become risks. So risk management is a big part of my role as well. So I'm actually a risk manager. So that's a very basic summary of what I do as a cybersecurity analyst. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ma, for that. And my second question is, how does someone who is new in tech know how to fit in, as there are so many fields?
That's a very interesting question. So there's so much you can do in tech, even within the cybersecurity industry. There's a lot. I guess how you'd know where you fit in is think about what you're good at. So there are people who have got very non-traditional security career. I'm a people's person. What you get from cybersecurity people is that they're more analytical and they're more technical. So a lot of the strengths seem to be is always in processing data, but my strength is in people and just finding out where you fit in would always reflect on what is your best strength. There's no point looking for the people, the design part of tech. So there's no point becoming a UX designer when that's not something you enjoy or that's not your strength. There's no point trying to be a data analyst crunching large volume of data when you're bored with doing that. So the best way to find where you fit in is to actually look at your personal strengths. And there's a place for tech for everyone. So if you enjoy process, if you enjoy dealing with people, if you enjoy the technology, if you enjoy coding, there's literally a place for everyone. You just need to figure out what your strengths are. And more than figuring out what your strengths are, figure out what you don't like and what your weaknesses are.
Okay, thank you, Ma. We've all heard we should all figure out what our likes and our weaknesses are in order to be able to discover where we fit.
And speaking to people, just talking to people, finding out what their experiences are, getting people to make recommendations for you. So a lot of things. When I started my role, one of the things my manager said was, "You're different from all of the other analysts," and actually had to go and speak to him and like, "What do you mean by this?" And he was like, "Well, you do process information differently." And just taking feedback from people helped me actually find out where I wanted to be and what I was really good at.
Okay, thank you, Ma. For those joining us, we are having a question and answer session with Dr. Brenda. So if you have any questions, any tech-related questions at all you'd like to ask, feel free to join in the conversation, or you could drop them in the chat section and I would read them aloud. So my next question is, what made you decide to venture into tech? Because you wanted to be an architect.
Yeah, I think like a lot of things in Nigeria, I wanted to be an architect, but the university I went to at that time did not offer architecture as a course. So I think the next best thing for me was computer science. So that's why I'd gone into computer science. Down the road, I wanted to be a telecoms engineer, but by the time I got to the United Kingdom, I just realized technology was where it was. So I went into tech, and yeah. So there wasn't any massive thinking around it. It was just the path I was always on.
All right. Thank you, Ma. So, and how was this your journey like? Moving into tech.
Okay. Yeah. So for my undergraduate, I studied computer science. And after my undergraduate, I went into banking for a while. So I worked in banking for about a year or two. Not very sure now. And then I did a master's in telecommunications. And when I was done with that, my first job was actually in research. I did that for the Commonwealth Telecommunications Organization, that's the CTO. And my next role was a project management role. So I was a project manager within tech. And while I was doing that, I moved into networking and as a network engineer for about 6 months. And while I was doing networking, I think at that point, they were trying to create the security function within that organization. And the manager came to me and said, would you like to do security? I think you'd be a good fit. And that's how I found my way into security. I did that role as a security analyst for, I think, 2 years. Then I went for my doctorate at the University of Birmingham. That was in computer science again, but it was more focused around software engineering and risk management. So I did a bit around software engineering for about 4 years. Then I started my current role, which is cybersecurity.
Oh.
So that's my journey. I think a lot of people tend to do so many things, but I found I've always been in tech and just played around it a bit.
Thank you for sharing. And where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
I never have a clear answer to this because I find that things happen and your plans change. But on my current trajectory, I see myself being the CISO of I would say Fortune 500 company. I know, yeah, that's where I see myself. So be C-level. That's what I'm on track for at the moment.
Okay. And in schools here in Nigeria, when we take courses, we don't really get all the information around it. Like I myself, I studied computer science, but I didn't know like the different fields in computer science. I just got introduced into like programming when I was doing IT in my third year.
Yeah.
So I'm asking, is it the same over there? Is it easier or
Um, I'd say it's a lot better here, just because I've taught a few students now. I do lecture in my free time. And one of the things I've seen, I think the last group of students I taught were second year computer science students, and that course was game design. So although it was something that never done, they actually had to work with them to figuring out how to create games. So a lot of there was a lot of the scoping the requirements, actually designing the game, thinking about things like the physics and the different components of how a game works, and then eventually developing it. And I felt like if I had that in my second year in Nigeria, I'd probably have become a developer because it was quite interesting, but it just wasn't there. So there's that opportunity that's lacking to give people different insights. So I think that's one of the, yeah, that's something that's really lacking with the Nigerian education. On the flip side, when I was doing my doctorate, I was having a conversation with a lecturer. I think he was from India, but he's been in the UK for a few years. And I was complaining about the educational system in a lot of the third world countries. And there's one thing he said. He was like, for everything those systems lose by not teaching things that cutting edge, they do actually quite do a lot for getting you ready with the foundation. So if you know you're studying computer science, what programming language have you been taught in school?
well, back when I was in school, we
Yeah,
were taught Q basic,
yeah,
and I don't
assembly
think
language.
yeah, I don't think anybody uses that anymore.
Yes, and that's the way I was thinking. I was thinking I don't think anyone uses that. But what this lecturer said to me was these things actually help you with the basic logical thinking. So the Javas you have today, the a lot of the more fancy languages are actually built on top of those languages. So if you understand the basics, if you understand the core of those languages, the logic around it, you can pick up anything. So, but that's the thing is that when these things are taught in Nigeria, that they're not actually taught for us to understand it, but taught to pass rather than to understand. But if you can actually understand the basics of those things, assembly language, how the zeros and one works, the OR gates and AND gates. So if you understand the logic about those things, you can actually build on that knowledge to understand quite a lot of things. And I find that it's very helpful with any what I do in cybersecurity. I do mentor a lot of people, and one of the things I would say to them is make sure you know your basics, your foundation, because everything else built on top of that. So it's two ways. They could do better with the way they teach us in Nigeria, but knowing the basics actually really help. So you might think QBasic, assembly language, Fortran, you might think all of those things are useless, but the modern language is built on a lot of those things.
Okay, thank you. We have a question from Cardinal. He said, what are the skills required for a cybersecurity analyst?
For cybersecurity analyst, the first skill I think once you hear analyst is it's to be analytical. So yeah, that's the very first skill. The second skill is actually curiosity. You should, because cybersecurity is so broad and even the smartest people still do not have all the information, is curiosity. You should be eager to find out information. You should ask questions. Anything that doesn't make sense to you, you should ask questions. It's one of the biggest skills you need. So asking questions, being curious, attention to detail. You work with data day in, day out. You're looking at logs. You're looking at different firewall rules. You need attention to detail. You need to be able to focus on what you're doing, and you need to understand what you're doing. So I think those are, off the top of my head, I'll say those are the two core skills. Communication skill is actually massive. You find a lot of the tech people tend to struggle with putting themselves out there, speaking to people, listening to people. So that's another thing you need. It's really good communication skills, because a lot of your work would actually be speaking to people, trying to understand why they've made the mistakes they've made, how they got hacked, what they've done. And you need to have that balance between empathy, understanding that most people struggle with technology, and just trying to get the right information out of people. So just to summarize, I would say curiosity, humility to be able to ask those questions, attention to detail, and good communication skills.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Cardinal, I hope you gotten answers to your question. And my next question is, does it make sense to go into tech with all these buzz around it? Because everybody's saying there's money in tech, there's money in tech. So does it make sense to go because there's money in tech?
Does it make sense to go into tech because there's money in tech?
Like people are saying there's money in tech, there's money in tech.
I'd say yes. I'd say everybody has to find their own motivation. And for a lot of people, money is a really good motivation. So if you think you're motivated enough, I think money is a good reason to do anything. I think money is a good reason to go into tech. And just because there's so much you can do in tech, there's so much you can do in tech, you should be able to find somewhere where you're comfortable in. So I would say yes, it makes sense. There are very few careers that are as rewarding as working within tech. There's a lot of flexibility within tech. So I would say yeah.
Okay. How are you able to put yourself out there? Do you own a blog, a podcast, YouTube channel? Yes.
A lot of the ways I put myself out there, I think a big part of it was because I'm a researcher. I think that's already given. So a lot of the things I write, a lot of my research is a way of putting myself out there. I do attend conferences. So that's another way I contribute to the ecosystem when I can. But the biggest way I put myself out there is actually within organizations where I've worked. I speak to everyone. I speak to everyone from the CTO to the CEO. I find out how I can help them, what challenges that they have. You'll speak to someone and they'll say, oh, I've been trying to log into this, but I'm not able to do this, or I need a password manager. So the biggest way I found for putting myself out there is actually to have conversations with the people that I work with the organization, make sure I know what everyone needs at a different level. And yeah, and that way I always get referrals. I always get emails saying this person is doing this. Can you work with them? That's the way I've worked.
Okay, thank you, Ma. And now with the buzz around tech, there are people that are moving into tech from different other fields entirely. So what advice would you give to this set of persons?
The first advice I would say is the first advice I would say is learn as much as you can. There's so much to learn, but learn a bit of everything so you know what you want. So if you do decide, I want to go into tech, what do I want to do? So you can put a month into UX design, see if you like it. Just go through different options really quickly and see what's more suitable for you. Ask a lot of questions, reach out to people. Whatever you decide to do within tech, learn the fundamentals, learn the basics. If you're going to do security, understand what's the link between confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Understand how this affects people in their day-to-day life. So just really understand the basics, really understand the technical part, the technical basics. So know your tools, know your tool sets, the very basic tool sets. That's what I would say. Be curious, make a lot of mistakes early. And when you do decide on what you want to do, know the basics.
Okay. Thank you. That was really helpful. And finally, my final question, with tech always evolving, how do you stay ahead?
I read a lot and I speak to a lot of people. And I think one of the things with being in the industry is you're almost forced to evolve. I think, especially with cybersecurity, is that you're almost forced to evolve. You go to work today and you've got this new vulnerability. And because you've got this new vulnerability, you need to read around it. You need to find out how that can be fixed, how that can be, what you can do about that. You've got problems and you're always looking for new solutions. So if you've got a problem with, you've got too many firewall rule sets, how can you fix this problem? You look for what's in the market. But I tend to read a lot and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I follow people on LinkedIn. So I find the thought leaders in what I'm interested in and just follow them.
That's all from me. Thank you, Ma, for sharing. I don't know if there's anybody else that has any more questions for Dr. Brenda. Okay.
Is there anyone else that's interested in cybersecurity? Have I been able to convince anyone? No.
Okay, can anyone hear either of us?
Or the developers amongst you, is there anyone that's interested in web application security?
Can you guys hear us?
You can.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yes, we can.
Hear you. You can as well just touch those places and probably might not know, might be interested.
I should touch those places.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What I can try to do right now is to just talk through. Okay. So, web application security is also quite similar to DevOps or DevOps security or DevSec. So that's just a career within security that's more focused on the security of applications. So things like a lot of you do things like code reviews. You try to identify vulnerabilities within the code and the different libraries you're using, checking how it's been put together, the architecture of the software. So things like, yeah, that's what that is majorly about. So web application security person would work closely with a vulnerability management person. And there are tools to help you with that. So if you were to build a software, there are a lot of automated tools you can use. We've got tools like Nexus, and those are just things you can use to scan the applications. The thing with using automated tools is that they'll pick up a lot of the things that they can pick up, but things that have to do with processes and the way people use an application, those are things that you'd have to pick up as a person. You can do that using, I've got that question. So you can do that using a pen tester. Pen testers are really good for that. Their focus is to pick up vulnerabilities within web applications and even infrastructure. So that's one way. If you're a developer, I would say that's a good skill to have. My husband is a developer. He's a Java developer, and I'm always telling him, I'm always working with him on his code base. I'm always telling him, you need to understand the security behind what you're doing. Like, it just saves you a lot of hassle later on. So I think that's a quick overview for that. I've got another question here. Which mode of learning do you recommend? Going to school to study a course, self-study, or learning on the job? The best mode of learning for me personally, I would say, is learning on the job. Going to school to study a course, if you've already done a degree, I wouldn't recommend going back to do another degree just for career in tech. And there are a lot of these boot camps you can do. There's a lot of that. In the UK, we've got apprenticeship, which is learning on the job as well. So I would recommend that. Self-study is really good. You can actually learn a lot through self-study. The problem I find with self-study is that most people are not as motivated as they would want to be, and self-study actually takes a lot of motivation. So that's one. Decentralized application. Does that have anything to do with information security? Yes. So when you say, so this question is from David Adeleke. Can you give me an example of what you mean by decentralized applications?
It meant like applications built on tokens.
Oh, okay. So okay. Yeah, yes, there's always, so thing to understand about security is security as sort of like if you've got requirements for anything you do, so you've got your functional requirements and your non-functional requirements. Security is your non-functional / quality requirements. So if you're going to build decentralized applications, you would always need to secure them. You'd always need to make sure they meet a threshold for security. So the way to go about that is to read into what the specific
difficult for.
Sorry? David, I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, so I was saying, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to me now. Thank you.
Yeah. So there would always be security requirements. You would always need to understand that. And you'd always need to think about how you protect things like, again, the basics, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I think with decentralized applications, there's a lot of, their focus is quite on protecting integrity. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Ma, for the answers. I know I've learned a lot, and I'm sure we also have, others have also learned. So if you have any more questions, you can ask.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ma, for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Ma.
Okay, NEC has got my email address, so if you do think of any other questions later on about a career in cybersecurity, you can let me know. One of the things I do in my spare time is to mentor people. Unfortunately, I haven't got the bandwidth right now to take on new people, but I could help you with the one-off questions.
Okay, thank you, Ma, for the offer.
Thank you.
So you guys, if you're interested in cybersecurity, you should reach out to me so that you can get in contact with Dr. Brenda. So while we wait for the second speaker, I have a brief presentation to make. So while we wait for the second speaker, is having issues joining. Okay, Bincom Dev Center is the host of today's event. And Bincom Dev Center is a multi-location based training and development center for technology resources and technology solutions. We have locations in Lagos, Oyo, Kano, Kaduna, Oyo State, Delta States. We have a location now in Abuja. We offer, some of our services that we offer are Vincom Academy, Vincom Tech Apprenticeship, Vincom Community Events and Projects, Lightspace, Vincom Global Tech Program, Vincom Emigrate Program, and Vincom Mentoring Program. These are the services that Vincom Dev Center offers. So Vincom Academy is an intensive training program just for 4 weeks. And during this period, the facilitators take participants on a training in the different classes that are available on the flyer that is being shown on your screen. To register for any of these classes, you can log on bincom.net/academy. And our next service is Lightspace. We have a helpful co-working space to encourage collaboration and drive innovation. We have spaces for meetings. If you have any, you could. I have locations in Lagos State, Oyo, Kaduna, Kano, Ogun State, and Delta State, like I mentioned earlier. And you could log on blog.bincom.net/campuses for more info about that. And Bincom community events and projects, we host 5 events, and they consist of master classes, meetups, idea sharing, explore on the move, challenge, and brainstorm. And today's event, the ICT Career Talk, is an idea sharing event, and we host ICT Career Talk events every last Saturday of every month. And we also have other initiatives, include the Bincom Tech Network and the Bincom Tech Club. And these are for collaboration purposes for anyone who is new in tech and you need help with being mentored. We at Bincom, we offer services.
What are the things you need for this program? All you need is your laptop device, a hunger and a passion for IT. Those are the core tools that you need. The total cost of the Bincom Global Tech program for the period of 1 to 2 years is just 1.2 million naira. But you don't need to worry about that because it gets better. We have various financing options to help you cover the cost of the program. So you don't need to have any money to even apply or be admitted to the program. One of the financing options that are available for this program is the income sharing agreement. What that simply means is that the company will sponsor your learning. So you would learn for the period of 1 to 2 years and you only start paying back when you get a job and you start earning your income after this program. This means that aside from skills, experience and exposure, the company is also willing to invest its own money in you. That's a total package. What are you waiting for? You need to go on our website, bincom.net/globaltech. You need to register and then launch your global tech career. I'm sure that the tech world, the tech industry is waiting for a great talent like you. Thank you.
Okay, the Bincom Global Tech Program gives you the opportunity to learn skills, gain exposure, and gain experience. It runs from 1 to 2 years, and it costs 1.2 million naira. But their payment plans, just like was said in the video. So I also have the Emigrate program. Emigrate program educates you on how to be globally attractive and how to and exposes you to the opportunities in tech, either the business or the technical side of tech. And it also helps you for relocation and settlements in outside countries. We also have consultation sessions, and they range from 30 minutes to 1 hour, and it costs just 200,000 naira for the consultation. Our global tech program is 1.2 million. So you earn 10% for any of our services you refer to any prospective customer who might be interested. So this 120K is for when you refer someone who is interested in our global tech program. That's 1.2 million. So you get 120,000. And if you have any questions, you could contact us on the email on your screen, phone number, or you visit our website at www.bincom.com, bincomdevcenter.com. So that's that. Thank you all. I don't know, our second speaker was unable to join. All the same, thank you guys for joining, for asking questions, and see you all next month. Bye.